advance of Anderson's brigade across those open fields. Map number 1 shows you
Watch the motorcycle.
On map number 1, I want to show you the advance that's coming across. And on it, you'll see the Timbers field, Timbers house. Kind of midway on the bottom, toward the bottom of map number 1. That's Timbers. The bottom left-hand corner is where the attack is going to come from. So they're going to be coming across these fields, ultimately heading into these woods in here. Jerome Robertson's brigade has already attacked up here along Hawks Ridge. This is Hawks Ridge. This was under the control of the Brigadier General. Ward's brigade is going to be posted along Hawks Ridge. As Robertson's brigade is attacking, the 3rd Arkansas is going to be coming from directly behind you, and the attack's going to bog down. Robertson sends that word back to Longstreet and to Anderson to come across. As Anderson and his Georgians start moving out from those woods that we were standing in front of on our first stop, there's going to be some artillery shells coming in. Jackson Giles, who happens to be a courier for Anderson, was dismounting his horse at one point over there when a shell comes in and sends him flying about 10 or 15 feet in the area. Captain Hillier, who's going to be ultimately in charge of the 9th Georgia, a little bit later on this afternoon in a fight, he comes to his aid and asks him if there's any message that he could relay to his parents, because obviously Jackson Giles is about to die, and he says, yes, if you would, tell them that I died for my country. In Anderson's post-battle report, he says it was a very unpleasant condition. A little bit of an understatement there. As the Georgians are coming across the field, they want to essentially double quick from the Emmetsburg Road position where they started off to get to this area in here, because in those roughly 400 yards of open fields, the artillery that's posted along the Wheatfield Road, when you're coming down the Wheatfield Road and I said there's artillery on the left-hand side, that's where Sickles had to plug the gap with artillery as opposed to infantry. They're firing at those Confederate Georgians coming across those open fields. So they want to get across the field as quickly as possible. Also, there's a battery under Captain Winslow that's posted in the wheat field. They're also firing at them. So they're going to double quick and come across those fields as quickly as they can. Lieutenant Colonel John Mounger of the 9th Georgia Regiment is going to be mortally wounded and die in those fields. Mounger is a 49-year-old pre-war lawyer. And I'd like to point out to all my friends that there's a lot of lawyers that die here at Gettysburg. They get a kick out of that. Mounger's coming across the fields, and he's going to receive a bullet, and he's also going to receive shrapnel, and he's going to die in the field. And his two of his sons are with him, John and Thomas, and they're going to describe in a letter back to their mother back in Georgia about the passing. And they say that Dad was shot with a mini ball through the right breast and a grape shot from cannon through the bowels. He died within minutes of the wounding. Now, the loss was doubly terrible for Lucy Mounger back in Georgia, because she had a son, Terrell Mounger, who had died at Chancellorsville. And her husband, John, had sent a letter back to his wife describing that death 14 days after the Battle of Chancellorsville was over. So she loses Terrell. It's also kind of poignant for Lucy, because John had decided that this was going to be his last battle. He's 49 years old, and he doesn't think that he's up to the rigors of active combat. And so his decision was going to be, in fact, he's got a letter to that effect, his resignation, letter of resignation from the Army of the Northern Virginia. And so that when they cross back over the Potomac River, he's going to ultimately leave the Army and go back to his wife. Doesn't happen. He dies here, coming across those open fields. Doesn't get any better for Lucy Mounger. The following year, she finds out that her other two sons, John and Terrell, who are with the Army of Northern Virginia, both get killed in the Battle of the Wilderness. And so she loses all three sons, and she loses her husband in the span of roughly a year of combat. This action in here, the 3rd Arkansas is coming through these fields in here. You see a lot of brush in here. Of course, back at the time of the Battle of Gettysburg, this undergrowth pretty much is not here, because that's being taken care of by wild hogs and cattle that are feeding on it. So you don't see that underbrush in here. And so if we were able to look through, this would be, you'd have the trees. Yes, the trees are going to be here, or the woods, but you're going to be able to see through it. And so the 3rd Arkansas is coming up through those woods, heading for the 20th Indiana. This is a monument to the 20th Indiana Regiment, and they're going to be posted along this area in here. Colonel John Wheeler is the commander of the 20th Ohio, and Wheeler is on his horse back over here. And he gets shot and killed off the horse. And there, one of the monuments there, one of the rocks there, it had painted on it, surely John Wheeler, Colonel 20th Indiana, died at this location. The paint has since gone by and it's no longer there. But Van Manning attacks the 20th Indiana. They are the right portion of Ward's brigade up here on Hawks Ridge. Initially they had the 99th Pennsylvania to their right, but the 99th Pennsylvania, when the attacks start coming, an echelon attack is designed to try to have the enemy or the foe that you're attacking pull from one end to get to the other end, thereby creating an empty space. And that's exactly what's going to happen. The 99th Pennsylvania is going to come behind the 20th Indiana and get over to help out Ward up by the Devil's Den and the Triangular Field area, because that's where the fighting is the heaviest with Jerome Robertson's brigade. So the 20th Indiana is posted on the right-hand side. They're dealing with the 3rd Arkansas coming. The 3rd Arkansas attacks. They get repulsed. They drop back about 100 yards in these woods. There's a ledge of rocks that are back there. They attack the second time. That's good. And the second time they're going to be repulsed and go back about 100 yards over by the ledge of rocks. The second time that they go back, see, they're not only getting fire from the 20th Indiana that's here, but they're also getting fired on their left flank from the 17th Maine posted along the stone wall at the edge of the wheat field. And so what he's going to do, what Colonel Van Manning is going to do to try to solve the situation is he's going to extend his line, refuse his left line, put word back to Anderson that he needs support, and they're going to try it again. This 3rd attack is going to be with the 59th Georgia Regiment of Anderson's brigade. They've double-quicked across those open 400 yards. They've come in on the left flank of Van Manning's 3rd Arkansas, and there's going to be a renewed push. They're not going to be successful. The 20th Indiana is going to repulse that as well, and they're going to fall back once again to that ledge of rocks. Come here when the foliage is down. It's about 100 yards behind us. It's a nice defensible position for the 3rd Arkansas and the 59th Georgia to be at before they're going to resume it. Now, the men of the 59th Georgia, they chalk up this unsuccessful first attempt joining up with the men from Arkansas as a result of being winded from coming across that open 400 yards. The next time they attack, they're going to drive the 20th Indiana off of this position. And ultimately the colonel goes down, John Wheeler goes down. The lieutenant colonel is now in charge. He very quickly gets shot and he has to leave. And so ultimately the command is going to devolve down to a Captain Erasmus Gilbreth. Ward is going to send over somebody to indicate to him that he's got to hold his position. Gilbreth tells him that he needs supplies and he needs help. Ammunition supply is running low, and so ultimately when that 4th push comes down from the Arkansas and Georgians, they're going to push off the 20th Indiana, and they're going to, the Indianians, are going to head back toward Little Round Top and the northern extension of Little Round Top, which is behind us. Ultimately, during the fighting of the wheat field, when the Union soldiers get repulsed, they're going to be heading back in that direction. That direction is the safety of the northern extension of Little Round Top and other Union reinforcements. So when they get fighting in the wheat field and push back, they're always going to be going and heading back in that direction in there. Captain Gilbreth talks about what happened here when they get driven off this position. And his position is that they were running so low on ammunition that they really couldn't hold any longer, but they're being attacked by more numbers than they have here. And one of the flags gets dropped, it gets recovered by the Confederates, and Gilbreth talks about hearing the Confederates laughing at us as we retreated. One of the neat things when I was doing the research for the wheat field I sent out about 100 letters to different universities and repositories throughout the country asking for information. And there was a library in Indiana and by the way, about 80% of them responded, favorably. Yeah, we've got something. Even those that didn't have anything said, we'll keep an eye out. But the library in Indiana said, we've got his memoirs. There's the draft of his diary, his memoirs, and they hadn't seen the light of day for over 100 years, and they were kind enough to make a photocopy of it. And so that's where I was getting this information, where he's talking about they're retreating, and the Confederates are laughing at them as they are retreating. But ultimately, that's where they're going to be heading. They're going to be heading back in that direction in there. So this is the initial part of the fight of the Battle of the Wheat Field. It's taking place a little bit just south of where the actual wheat is going to be, which isn't too far in that direction here. You guys are all facing east. Behind you is west, obviously. There's north, and there's south. And this is the fighting that's going to take place in here. Ultimately, the 3rd Arkansas and the 59th Georgia are going to be successful in taking this position, as is the rest of Robertson's brigade with the assistance of Benning's brigade. Benning is going to come to the assistance of Robertson as well, and they're going to take the triangular field. And so ultimately, Hawks Ridge, ending where Devil's Den is going to be under the control of the Confederates. The Union soldiers of Ward's brigade that are positioned along this, which includes the 20th Indiana, positioned along Hawks Ridge, they're going to be driven off. Where they're going? They're going back toward the northern extension of Little Round Top and the security of additional Union soldiers in that general direction. Questions about this action right in here? There's 2 ways to get to the ledge of rocks. One is we go 100 yards through that. Well, we're not going to do that. Second is, as we follow this road along, the park used to have a trolley. And the trolley would go all the way down to Little Round Top and back, and it was a money maker back in the 19-teens. And then they got rid of the trolley, but the path is still there. And so as we come along on this roadway, you'll see the path, and that's the second way to get to the ledge of rocks is you take the path, you go down about 25 yards, and you make a right-hand turn into the woods. Problem is, it's into the woods. So we're not going to do it, but when you come back on your own, that's where the ledge of rocks are going to be. It's about 100 yards from here. Again, it's a very nice defensive position where you're physically below the line of fire from the 20th Indiana that's up here, and you're able to then jump up and resume that attack in here. Okay?